Hello everyone, welcome back. Today we are going to be reviewing the new Reboot foundation from Makeup Forever. Now this is sort of a skincare in foundation sort of formula. I guess a little bit closer to products like IT Cosmetics CC Plus than your typical average foundation. It claims to have a satin skin-like finish, also a medium coverage, and it's meant to even out your skin tone, hydrate and plump the skin, and also firm over time. This formula does contain quite a few plant extracts to condition and nourish the skin, including ginseng, mondo grass, as well as camellia. Now, one of the most interesting claims about this product to me is the fact that it's meant to revive tired skin. Don't we all have tired skin? But it's also meant to revive your skin and make it look better as the day wears on. So that is an interesting thing. I'm not sure how noticeable it's going to be, since your face is covered with makeup. How are you going to tell if it looks better as the day goes on? The only thing we can probably see is whether the makeup looks better as the day goes on. So we're going to have to see. I've tried this for a couple of days, and I will say so far, first impressions wise, this does not feel like it's going to be a good foundation for oily skins. You could maybe pull this off if you have combination skin, if your oily spots are not too extremely oily, but generally speaking, there's nothing in it that says that this is meant to be a long wear or pore or oil controlling formula. I would just naturally say if you have very oily skin, you may want to steer clear of this one. Now I tried applying this two ways. First day with a beauty blender and the second day with their 112 buffing foundation brush. And I like both. Both will give me a seamless finish. I just felt like with the buffing brush, I ended up having to pump out quite a bit more product. So there's definitely a little bit more waste when bristles are picking up product. Now the 112 is an interesting shape. It's one of their newer foundation buffing brushes because it's not a completely flat top. You can see that even though these sides are kind of slightly rounded for a better blend, the top is flat and slanted, so it gives you better control, and it just works with your hand and the motion as you are pulling the brush down across your face. Now the side with the longest bristles will also end in a point, which means this gives you a little bit of control when you're trying to get into tight corners like under the eyes and around the nose. And we're done. A bit of a casual day today. I'm just wearing a huge oversized t-shirt. This one I got off H&M a few days ago. I love it. It's so cute. I'm just wearing it with shorts. So in honor of Miss Chic, who's on the front of my shirt, I am wearing kind of soft orangey tone makeup today as well. Now, application-wise, this was a beautiful formula. It just smoothed on like a tinted moisturizer. It gave evenness. It gave luminosity. It didn't emphasize texture. It didn't sit around pores. It didn't congeal. It didn't look cakey. And it didn't smear around. It does set, but I would still suggest going in with a powder on top of it unless you have extremely dry skin, because this does dry down with a mildly tacky finish. So even with a tiny bit of powder around my oilier zones, it's been about half an hour now and I can still feel a tiny bit of tackiness against my finger on the areas where I didn't really powder down too much. So just be aware of that. You don't like that feel. I can already see a tiny bit of creasing forming around my expression lines, nasolabial folds, under the eyes, on my forehead, where you emote, where you stretch and crease your face around. It's already starting to form some mild lines. So in 4 or 5 hours time, with sweat, with humidity, with sebum production, I can only imagine that this is going to crease even more. It's not oxidizing, but I do have my doubts about it being able to last and look perfect for that long. But I've been proven wrong before, because my Maybelline Fit Me Dewy and Smooth actually managed to stay on a whole day and look flawless at the end. Even though it's a dewy foundation, even though it's meant to hydrate, even though it's not really meant to be a long wear formula. So we'll see. Okay folks, it is now 6:30 p.m. I've been wearing the foundation for just over 8 hours, 8.5 or so. And let's have a quick look at it. It's quite a bit of heat. Let me blot away some of the shine. Obviously some of the shine's coming through, but not a ton. Just do bear in mind as well that I have slightly normal dry skin, but even where I'm slightly oily around the nostrils, there isn't too much of a shine. Not as bad as it could be, I'd say. I'm getting a bit of creasing around the nostrils, but for a luminous skincare containing foundation that is hydrating and not really supposed to be long wearing, it's held up surprisingly well. I did mention at the start of the day that I was seeing a little bit of creasing from the expression lines under my eyes, but after the initial creasing, it sort of just stayed exactly as it is. So some of the coverage has definitely worn down around my oiliest zones, around the nose primarily. But the rest of my makeup actually looks fine. I did set it with a tiny bit of translucent powder around my T-zone area under the eyes, around my chin, so that has locked on pretty well. And I also want to mention that the only places where it's creased a bit are the places where I put some powders. So I may have to try just skipping powder altogether and seeing how it does. So far so good actually for Reboot foundation. This has held up better than I was expecting given my initial thoughts on it. So I am going to leave you guys here and I'll check back in again on day 2 for another round of wear test. So that is it. I'm gonna head off now. I will probably check back in with you guys in a few hours time, midday, just to see how the foundation is doing, and then we'll do a last check-in at the end of the day. Bye! So guys, it is 3:45 right now. I'm doing a quick check-in. I'm definitely quite shiny around my T-zone, so I'm gonna blot and let you guys see if the makeup is still intact under there. So far it doesn't seem to be creasing around the eyes, not really around my forehead as well. Definitely faded around my nostrils. As usual, this is the oiliest part of my face and the makeup is not surviving here, but it's fading nicely. It's not like it's looking patchy. So it's just that the redness is showing a little bit right now. So if you have oily skin, I would say in 3 hours, you would start to see some fading. Definitely some oil coming through. Overall, on the rest of my face, it's looking perfect. Alright guys, I am back. It is now 6:06 p.m. I've been wearing the foundation for 8 hours again today, and I was out and about for most of the afternoon, so I was sweating up a storm. I'm gonna just sit, let my skin cool down, and then blot off the sweat and the excess oil, and we can see how well the foundation is held up. And yes, I did tone down the eye makeup before I left the house. It was just a little bit too crazy, so I just dipped a cotton bud in some makeup remover and just went over the green eyeliner on my socket. There you go, just clean tissue, because I have a lot of sweat. Now there's a teeny teeny tiny bit of foundation transfer when you blot sweat off, so this is not a transfer proof, transfer resistant foundation, but that's not surprising, they never claimed to be. Zooming you closer, surprisingly, despite the amount that I just sweated, it's still intact around my pores. Definitely faded around my nostrils, but it was already faded about midday, so I think that's just from general wear and tear and oil. This is my most fade-prone zone, but it's not congealing in my pores or anything like that, so it's not sitting in an ugly way. Very, very graceful fade, if that's what you're concerned about. No creasing today, not around my laugh lines. Not too much under my eyes either, and definitely not too much around my forehead. So it does seem like with a lighter, more luminous powder and giving it a little bit more time to set before I go in with my powder really helped. So that's a tip for you guys. Overall, the color is not oxidized. It's a beautiful shade. My makeup went on very nicely on top of it. Despite the moisture level, I didn't find that my bronzer was grabbing in areas, was not streaking. Now, one of the pros of this product was the ultra lightweight silky liquid texture. It blends on seamlessly, you get a flawless blend. It just looks like almost nothing on the skin. It doesn't even feel like you're wearing any makeup. The problem though, on the reverse, is that this is so liquid that every tool that I used with it was just soaking up a lot more product than usual. So whether I was using a blender or the foundation brush, I had to use about double the amount of product that I would use with, say, a typical liquid foundation like this one. So if budget is a problem, you may want to use a slightly cheaper alternative, or if you really, really like this a lot, then I would say go on with your fingers just to save some product. Your fingers give a beautiful blend, just make sure that you're patting the product on. It will give you that airbrushed beauty blender type effect, but it does not absorb any product at all. Of course, for a daily casual foundation, this doesn't exactly have a cheap price tag, so this is just something to consider if your budget is a little bit tight. Anyway, that is it for my review of the Makeup Forever Reboot Foundation. I do like it, but I may not recommend it for those on a tight budget or very oily skin. Hope you guys found this helpful, and I'll see you guys in the next one. Bye!